Sea salt and paper. Is it a fun day out at the beach? Or does it bring as much joy as sand in your swimming costume? Hi, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at a funky little card game called Sea Salt and Paper. Sea Salt and Paper is a card game for 2 to 4 players. It was published in 2022 by Bombix and was designed by Bruno Cathala and Theo Riviere. Now there is an expansion for the game. The expansion is called Extra Salt, and that was published in 2023. So let's have a look at the gameplay. How does this game play? You begin the game with no cards in your hand. There is a deck of 58 cards. 56 of those cards are placed face down in a pile, and 2 cards are dealt face up to form 2 separate discard piles, 1 card in each pile. The actions in the game are very, very simple. You can either draw 2 cards from the face down pile, choose 1 to add to your hand, and discard the other card face up to one of the discard piles, covering the other cards. Or you can take the top card of one of the face up discard piles and add that to your hand. Very easy. You are collecting cards as the game progresses, and those cards all have a way of scoring points. You are looking to score a set total of points over a series of rounds. Now if it's a 2-player game, it's a race to 40 points. If it's a 3-player game, it's a race to 35 points. If it's a 4-player game, it's a race to 30 points. A round ends when one player has scored 7 or more points with the cards in their hand, or those that they've played in front of them, because this game has 2 types of cards, some you play in front of you and some you keep in your hand. A player has the choice of ending the round once they've reached a minimum of 7 points, and they have 2 ways of ending the round. They can declare stop, in which case they reveal their cards, everyone else reveals their cards, and everyone scores whatever is in their hands. That point total is then accumulated round after round till one player scores equal to or higher than the total that is set by the player count. Alternatively, a player can call last chance. This is a little bit of a gamble. That player reveals their cards. We total up the points. All the other players get an extra turn to see if they can beat that point total. If they do, then the player who declared last chance scores fewer points. If no one beats it, then the player who declared last chance scores bonus points. So what's going on here? This is a little bit of a set collection game, and it's got just a dash, just a hint of push your luck in there, because you don't know how many points each player is going for in a round. Some people will like to stop it immediately at 7 points. Some people will sit there with 12 points, hoping someone else is going to try and declare last chance, and then they'll come in over the top. So there's a little bit of bluffing, a little bit of push your luck, set collection going on. All the cards score points in different ways. Some of the cards, when played in front of you, trigger different powers. Now that adds a little wrinkle to the game. So how long does it take to play a game of Sea Salt and Paper? Well, that very, very much depends on how many players you've got at the table and how quickly those players make a decision. There are a number of decisions to make in the game. Do I take 2 cards? Do I end the round now? Do I take the top card of the discard pile? And it's very difficult to decide exactly what you're going to do until it comes round to your turn, because people are picking up the cards in the discard pile. They might uncover something new. They might discard something that is particularly juicy. So you've kind of got to wait for your turn before you can make a decision. If you're playing with slow players, it's going to be a long game. If you're playing with experienced players who know the game, Sea Salt and Paper can be played in 20-25 minutes. If you are playing with brand new players who are trying to figure out some of the wrinkles of the game, the special card, they're trying to remember the card powers or how different cards score, it's going to be a little bit longer. You probably want more around the 45-minute mark, and that can feel long for this type of game. So is the game faster online or is it faster physically? Well, to be honest, the only real difference is online, the cards get shuffled automatically for you, and physically you have to gather them in and shuffle them up. It's not an enormous difference. Are the rules of this game clear and easy to understand? Do you read them quickly and then go away and go, yes, I can teach this game, no problem whatsoever? Or are you finding yourself constantly referring to it? The first time you read the rules, the game seems a little strange. The rules are very short. It's just a fold-out paper that double-sided. It's not very long. You know, you read the rules in 15 minutes. You need to figure out and remember the wrinkles, as I called them in the game. You're going to bump into a few sand dunes as you play. So you've got the fact that some of the cards score in different ways. Some are played in front of you. Some are kept hidden in your hand. There is the Mermaid, which has the most complex scoring mechanism, where you're scoring by how many cards of a certain color you've got in your hand. And then there are two different ways to end each round, and each one scores in a different way. So there's quite a few wrinkles in there. Nothing is complex, but the first time you play, it seems a bit strange. You'll find yourself looking backwards and forwards, referring to the rules. Once you've played it a few times, it all seems quite simple. I've played the game dozens of times. When I'm teaching new players, I can always see their face go, so how do the crabs work again? How do the boats work? How does the mermaid score? There's a fair few things for players to remember, and there are no player aids in the game. Overall, rules are reasonably well written. They're fairly straightforward, easy to understand. All the information you need is in that rule book. There's no need for an FAQ. Everything is clear. How the cards interact with each other are very, very clear. Game components. So what do you get for your money when you buy this game? Well, you get a deck of 58 cards in a card box. They're pretty much standard card stock. And this is a game where you're going to be shuffling those cards a lot and dealing them to players. Those players, as I'm sure you know, hold them in different ways. Some players like to bend them. Some players like to eat and play card games. Sleeving is generally a good idea with this game if you want it to last. If you just want to buy a couple of different copies and say, oh, you know, when it gets nattered and tatty, I'll just pull out a new deck and start again. Because it plays quickly and you're constantly shuffling after each round, those cards are going to take a little bit of abuse. The artwork on those cards it's beautiful. These beautiful little origami pieces, very, very thematic, very, very detailed, really, really pretty. And that's why I like to protect the cards of this game. Player counts. How many players does this game work at? Actually, this is one of those few games which works really well, I find, at every player count. I've played it at 2, 3, and 4, and I've had fun every time. At 2 players, it's quite the race. 3 and 4 players, it gets a little bit more tactical and involved. You don't see so many cards, and the discard pile, the face-up cards, are being snapped up that much faster. Also, in this game, you really want to keep track of what the other players are doing and collecting and try and block them. At 3 and 4 players, that becomes quite the challenge. At 2, it's a lot easier to remember, I've seen my opponent pick up seashells. I don't want to discard seashells and give them those cards. At 3 and 4, it can be a lot trickier. Also, scoring, the game tends to run longer because you need... It's harder to get sets. At 2 players, you can get a very quick scoring, and 5 or 6 cards in. You've dug through the deck, you've made a quick set collection, you've got 7 points, you ended the round. At 3 and 4 players, that can be harder to do because other players are taking cards. They're snapping up the cards. So forming those sets, as if other people are collecting the same sets as you, they're grabbing the cards, they're not discarding them. There's more overlap, and as a result, the game goes a little bit longer and is a little bit tougher. So just bear that in mind. Game footprint. Game footprint. How much space does this game take up? Do I need a big dining room table? Could I play it on an aeroplane? You could possibly play it on an aeroplane. The space that you need is space to put the face down deck and 2 face up piles next to it. So space to lay out 3 cards, stack piles on top, and then place for a player to place some cards in front of them. Normally they're not going to play more than 6 to 10 cards in front of them. The rest are going to be held in their hand. And they're going to be playing them in duos, so 2 cards together. Those cards can be overlapped or folded underneath each other. You can even layer them on top of each other to save a bit of space. So I would say, yes, you could play this on an airplane. You certainly don't need a big dining room table. You could play this on a coffee table quite easily as well. So in that sense, it's very, very good. And because those components, 58 cards, fit in a simple deck box, it's very, very portable. You can take this to game night, very easy. You can sleeve the game, throw it in a rucksack, take it hiking or whatever. It's a very, very portable game that you can play pretty much anywhere that you can have a flat surface and lay out a few cards. So even on a camping table, you could definitely play this game. Digital or physical version. You know, there are times where I play a game and I think, yeah, I've played the digital version and it does so many things for me. I don't really want to play the physical. The digital just automates all the annoying things, the hard work of the game. This is a game which I play both equally. If I go to a game night, if I go to a gathering of friends where we're going to play, even if we're meeting in a coffee shop or something like that, this is a game that's always going to get thrown in my bag. If I've got a lunch break and I want to play a game, Sea Salt and Paper is one of my go-tos on BGA. If I am waiting for one of my children to do something, or I'm waiting to pick them up and I've got 30 minutes to kill, again, on my phone, this is an easy game to play, which means that both versions are very, very handy to have. So let's talk about what I liked about the game. Number 1 is this has enough crunch to not just be any basic light filler game. It's got the twists and turns that it has, with starting with no cards as a card game and a collection game. The fact that you can place some cards in front of you, you hold other cards in your hand, all the cards score in different ways. There are card powers. There's face-up discard piles that you can take cards from. These wrinkles make for a satisfying experience for me. They add a little bit of extra crunch. It's not just a plain vanilla game. I really, really like that about it. Second thing I like is that it's easy to teach. The game, I can teach the game to people in 15, 20 minutes and away we go. And I can teach it in detail at 15 to 20 minutes, making sure that everyone has understood everything. I'm not glossing over or rushing through. I can take my time, explain all the details, and in 15 to 20 minutes, we're good to go. And once people have played it once or twice, they're running away with the game. There's no more questions. Everybody gets on with it. The third thing I like about the game is it's very pretty. I'm one of those people which I don't want a game to just be good. I want a game to be as beautiful as it is good. Unfortunately, I'm one of these people who upgrades all the components, often spending as much money, if not more, than the game cost me on 3D printed this, that, and the other, because I want a game to be beautiful. And Concordia, I'm looking at you. This is a really, really pretty game. Everyone likes the artwork. The origami the origami pictures are a really, really cool twist. I love that about the game. What do I dislike about the game? The first thing I dislike about the game is that there are no player handouts. The most common problem that players have is remembering what the different card powers are. I've played 2 crabs. What does that do again? That lets me get an extra turn? No, it lets you take from the discard pile. So what do boats let me do? These are common questions for the first few rounds of play. And often the first game has players quite confused until they've used the different cards. I end up printing my own handouts so that players have a reference. Because if they're looking at their cards and then they look up at you and go, so what do 2 boats do again? You know they've got 2 boats, which kind of defeats the purpose of the game. The game should have handouts. It makes it so much easier. Also, the handout should detail how the cards score, because if players are again saying, so how many points do I get for 2 octopuses? Again, I know they've got octopuses. I'm not going to give them any octopuses. So we often play the first game as a learning game where we're not tracking points. We're just playing a bunch of rounds so that people can get used to the different powers. But there's a few to remember, and that's the thing I really don't like about the game. The second thing I don't like about the game is you're going to shuffle this game a lot. And like I said, those cards are going to take a beating. It's portable, so it's a game you want to take with you to a board game cafe or local club or whatever. They get dropped on the floor. I've seen players bend cards. You always get the people who slap the card down or who want to put them under their chin and flick them backwards and forwards, or a variety of other things which make me near homicidal when I watch other players do them. These are beautiful cards with beautiful artwork. Kind of needs to be sleeved if you want to take it around, and it's going to get a little bit of abuse. Also, it's not cheap for a deck of cards. If you compare it to the cost of a regular deck of cards, it's pretty expensive. So if you're going to buy one every 6 months or so, if you're playing it a lot, good luck to you. But that's the other kind of niggle that I have around it. At least the cards are white bordered. Black bordered cards show signs of wear far quicker. So in that sense, that's a slightly mitigating point. So what other games might you like if you like Sea Salt and Paper. Arboretum is one that comes to mind. This is a 2 to 4 player game that also uses cards in some very interesting ways and allows you to pick up off of discard piles as well. The scoring in that game is very tactical and it feels crunchy, but it is a longer game, with the game taking about an hour. Another game that you might like is Space Base. It's a little bit different in that you are playing cards into a tableau rather than holding them in your hand, but it's very similar in that you are racing to a point total. You are building a point engine in Space Base. You are buying cards from a market. You are not drawing them from a deck. However, that feeling of racing to a points total is very, very similar to the feel you get out of Sea Salt and Paper. Another fun small card game you might want to try out if you enjoy this is The Crew. This is different in that it still plays 2 to 4 players, but it's cooperative and you are using your hand of cards to complete a mission together rather than playing each other. So if you're doing a card game night and you want to add a little different flavor, if the same player's been losing time and time again, or they're just having a bad night, The Crew can add a nice change of pace in that, hey, let's all play a game where we play against the system rather than each other. So overall, what do we rate Sea Salt and Paper? If we had to put a number on it from 1 to 10, where do we put Sea Salt and Paper? For me, and it is my opinion, it might not be the same for you. I'm just trying to give you all the different aspects of the game so you can make an informed choice. For me, this is an 8.5. This is a game I have played dozens of times, both physically and online on BGA. I really, really enjoy the game. It scratches a mental itch. It gives me enough to think about without burning my brain, which is perfect for a lunch break or killing 30 minutes here or there. This is a game that is always in my collection, pretty much always in my backpack if I'm going out to meet friends. So I hope you enjoyed this review video. If you did like it, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. They really, really help us out with the YouTube gods. Also, if there's something you liked or didn't like about the review, or you disagree with, or you agree with, put it down in the comments. We love to get feedback and are happy to answer all the comments that are left on the channel. Until next time, be good out there. Have a great day wherever you are.